So I want to just tell you a quick story about my life and my relationship with God. I always feel like I believed in God, but I just didn't have a relationship with God, right? I knew He was there, and I believed the Bible, and all my years of Bible class and all that, but I just felt like I really in my head I was going to hell anyway, so I might as well have fun. My first wife and I tried to go to church. We went to a church for a little while. She didn't really want it. We never made it really back to church, and I never really found a church. Our marriage didn't last, and I got divorced, and I really even fell away farther, I feel like, and became kind of the person that I didn't want to be. And I remember sitting, I'm like, I have made such a mess out of this life. I don't even like myself. I didn't even like being in the shower alone because I had no distractions and nothing, and I would just think about the person that I'd become. A couple friends had invited me to Restoration, and we met at the coffee shop, and which was easy for me because I didn't have to walk in there alone. But after that, I would walk in with my head down and kind of sit in the back, and I was just kind of exploring my faith and started praying more. And then I met Emily, and we became friends first. We went on dates, and she just was an amazing person. And she sang in the Catholic Church, and she come to Restoration with me. Ron Johnson baptized me soon thereafter, like 6 months later, and that kind of reinvigorated my relationship, I feel like, with God, and I started to kind of build back that foundation that I'd had when I was younger. We dated, we got engaged at the end of that year, so literally 12 months, like a year after I'd met her. I mean, we were like going to church together, we were going on walks and talking about God, talking about Jesus. It was awesome, and she had just had this amazing faith, but also a lot of questions, so we would talk, and here I was 48 years old, and marrying this beautiful woman that I was going to have kids with. She wanted a big family. I always wanted a family. We get married, and really soon thereafter, we get pregnant with our son Ryan. So here I was, 49 years old, like having my first son. I've always wanted a kid, and I was just so excited. And my faith, it was growing, and I was just learning and doing, and we were coming to Restoration, and I would go listen to her sing at the Catholic Church, and it was a really, really fun, exciting time in our lives. She said, let's get going on our family kind of deal, and I'm like, well, let's wait a while, and just enjoy Ryan, and she talked me into it, and so we decided to try again, and she gets pregnant with our second, Walker. And I mean, I am like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm gonna have 2 boys in the house. Like, this has always been my dream to have kids, and I was just so excited. She had suffered from some mental illness, some depression, and some in her past, and she was real clear with me and upfront, and I knew that. Pregnancy was really tough. She couldn't hold down any food. She couldn't sleep. She just was miserable. I watched the woman who I loved go, I mean, literally more and more become a shell of herself. And so we decided, like, I was trying everything to cheer her up, and I said, let's come up with a name for our son. So we talked, and we said, let's call him Walker. Like, that's a cool name. We're out here walking, and we can always remember, this hard time that he had, and that we got through it, and and I just remember praying over her. She said that night, she said she wasn't really looking forward to Christmas. And I knew, man, something was up, because that was like her favorite holiday. I remember going to bed that night, and I remember she was staying in the guest bedroom because she wasn't sleeping, and I remember praying over her, like literally laying hands on her and praying over her. And I get up the next morning, and I'm like, I get up and I go in to see her, and she had called the nanny and told her to show up late. So I'm like, where's the nanny? Like, and I said, I'm just gonna call and cancel going over to the Pilates studio. And she said, no. And I said, yeah, I'm just gonna call over there and cancel, and I'm just gonna stay until the nanny comes. She said, no, you need to go. I looked at my son. I'll never forget it. I looked at my son, and he's 1, by the way, at this time. I look at Ryan, and I'm like, I just don't feel right about going. And she said, you need to go. Ryan was there it's a Pilates studio, so everybody thought it was really fun to have a 1-year-old running around in there. And I just had this feeling, this really bad feeling. And I drove home after, an hour and a half or whatever it was. All the lights were on in the house, I'll never forget it. And the TV was blaring. And I put my son in the high chair and I went upstairs and I knocked on the guest bedroom door and there's no reply. I'm like, Emily, I'm like, honey. I kept knocking on the door, nothing. All of a sudden I freak out and I kick in the door, and there on the floor is my beautiful wife laying dead with a gunshot. And I just went over and picked her up, and I was holding her and I was trying to figure out in my head how I could save her life and my son's life, and there's nothing I could do. I'm angry at God, right? I'm angry. I'm frustrated. And I'd go down and sit in this chair and I'd just sit there. And I was kind of like praying, but also angry. Like really? Really? Are you kidding me? Like, I had thoughts of just running away. I had thoughts of just going to Belize and, going back to my drinking ways and just running away from it. And thank God for Ryan, because that was one of the things that really kept me focused. We have this amazing bond now because of what we've been through and what he's been through. And he doesn't remember his mom, but I tell him all the good things about his mom. Like the weekend after Emily passed, my parents had come out and I went for a ride that day just to try to work through a lot of stuff, and I was really angry with God. And I just flew up lookout. I got up here, I had all the adrenaline going, I was completely gassed, and I just literally was like this, clicked out, and I was just bawling. And I was angry with God, and I was negotiating with him, and I was trying to negotiate with him to please let my wife into heaven. And I remember just sitting here and I was just bawling. I mean, just tears coming down on my sunglasses, and people are walking around, and I just heard, as loud as I'm gonna say right now, she is here. And I just looked up and I just felt like this relief come over my body, and I could just feel it. And the whole time I just felt like God had his arms around me, and he was just like, you're doing one of your favorite things in the world, riding your bike. Your wife's here in heaven. I'm here. And it's just, this message just kept coming through, like, I love you, I love you, I love you, I'm sorry for what happened. And I get down to the bottom of Lookout Mountain at the parking lot there, and I click out of my pedals, and I came to. And I was teetering over, like, I'm never going back to church. Like, forget that. There's not a God in this world that would let something like that happen, is what I'm thinking in my head. And then I'm also teetering between, I need God, I need to run towards him. He's going to help me. And it was like that moment between running away from God or running towards God. And thankfully that ride, and just how he wrapped his arms around me, and how the warmth and the love, and I could just feel the Holy Spirit persuaded me to run towards God. And that started this every morning, getting up at 4 and being in the Word, and I started journaling. It really started this journey of I got in a couple men's groups, and I really just started to really work and grow my faith. Like, what's next? Like, I mean, making money and doing all that stuff and all that was great, but it was so unfulfilling. I was always trying to fill a hole. And God came into me, and I just felt the Holy Spirit in my heart, and it was like he filled that hole. He created us to need him to fill that hole. And so, you look at all the depression and anxiety and stress in this world, and the way people tried to fill that hole, and when all they need to do is just give their life to Christ. he says to me at night before he goes to bed, he says, "Dad, you're my second favorite dad." And I look at him and he says, "God's my favorite dad." The bond that Ryan and I have because of what happened is amazing. And we have a lot of fun together. And, my dad was always working when I was little, and he tried. We'd go do stuff, but I'd take him out of school and we go fishing. He says, "Dad, you're a bad influence on me." I said, "Why?" He said, "Because you take me fishing." So I guess if I'm going to be a bad influence, that's a good way to do it. Or I take him skiing or whatever. So we do have a lot of fun, and he's just kind of been my little sidekick. What's happened in my life over the last 7 years, it causes me to be grateful for that day, which is, I just never thought I'd be able to say that. If you knew me on the outside, you say, "That guy's got it together." I mean, look at that suit and that watch and like the car and all that. Look at the house, all that. That guy's got it together. And I thought I was in control. And unfortunately, it took something that tragic to bring me to my knees. Jesus is the answer, and God is there for you. And I just think you don't want to be brought to your knees. It's so easy just to give your life to Christ and live a different life. And it's so countercultural to do that. But it has been the most amazing journey. And I'm just excited. I'm like 57 years old and I have my life in front of me. Life is messy and hard. The guy sitting next to you, the gal sitting next to you has a story. Their life there's been messy. You're going to be around messy. And I don't know how anybody does it without God. I don't know how you get through that.